Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show, a place about games, friends, getting better. My name is Ben Hansen, and I'm thankful that you're here with us today because I'm going to be joining you on this wild ride of talking about video games. I'm going to be joined by some smart folks. I'm going to be joined by one Jacob Geller.
I'm back.
Welcome, sir. Has it been a while?
I don't know. It's been like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm thinking he's back. We got Leo Vader.
I'm still here.
Never goes away. And then Charles Harte from Game Informer. Welcome, Charles.
Hello, I'm here for the first time.
Yeah, how does it feel? What do you think?
It feels like a podcast.
Yeah, that's kind of...
Which is good, which is a good thing, you know.
That's what we're going for.
We are constantly saying, make it feel like a podcast, everybody. Please make it feel like a real podcast. So mission accomplished. Charles, you are an associate editor at Game Informer, and you're at Fanbyte before that, right?
Yes, I was an intern at Fanbyte before it imploded. And then the Game Informer people threw me a life jacket. And I've been sailing there ever since. I don't know why these are boat references.
No, the first thing you gotta know about Charles Harte, he's really into nautical themes for all of his metaphors and stuff. So all game reviews, it always works in something about rough seas. Charles, I've enjoyed listening to you on the Game Informer Show podcast. It's been fun. And like, I don't want to be one of those, look, I don't want to be a weird old guy in general. But I don't want to be one of those weird old guys that always is talking about like, what's with people being younger than I am? But it was one of those moments where you were talking about like how important Lego Star Wars was to you. And how it was like the first game you played when you were like 5 or something. Mm-hmm. And it's just a nice gut check of like, you're a young fella. And that's just fun to think of like, oh, Lego Star Wars is like your Mario 1 or Duck Hunt for like my generation. It's just wild to think of.
You gotta understand, as a kid who liked Legos and liked Star Wars, how absolutely mind-blowing it is for a 5-year-old to be like, these two things are together, and it's just an infinite, I can replay these levels as much as I want. And I don't know, also, I don't know if you've ever had like Lego Star Wars action figures, but the lightsaber tops, I always lose those, and then it's like, the lightsaber is useless now. It's just like the hilt.
Right.
Fall off in the video game. So that was a big deal also.
For the record, Lego Star Wars was also important to me as a kid. It was the first time I ever encountered not having a computer that could run it at the frame rate. And I asked my dad, why is this running in slow motion? And he said, look at it this way. Maybe you'll do better at the game.
Interesting. Yeah. It's 24 frames per second. They're trying to make it realistic for the film, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
I just remember that game was important to me actually because I guess I was in high school and it was like early on for modding the original Xbox. And so that was a big one. I was like, well, everyone has to have a copy of Lego Star Wars now and we'll all play it. And I remember playing it and being surprised. And we're like, what is the ability in this game? Because like when you're Anakin in episode 1, isn't his special ability like to be able to crawl into vents?
Yeah, he's small.
He's small, I guess.
His ability.
It's just the least interesting thing to do with Anakin Skywalker, but it's like, well, it's before he's capable of doing anything, so he's big into these vents and diving into them over and over and over again.
And it's just him and young Boba Fett. Those are the 2 vent characters in that game, I believe.
Yoda can't do it? I
don't think so. But Yoda's crazy.
He's got other stuff going on. Yeah.
He's got this jumping. The animators really went wild with Yoda and Lego Star Wars.
I forget. Did you like Skywalker Saga then? The Lego game?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I actually didn't finish it because part of the magic of Lego Star Wars 1 was playing it with my brother, and now he's off at college, so I don't see him all the time. So we played through some of it together, but like Lego Star Wars 1, you could knock out in like an afternoon. Skywalker Saga, we kept being like, oh, this is like more than 5 levels per episode. This is like a whole thing.
You gotta narrow it down a little bit, just like Assassin's Creed Mirage. Let's really get to a core gameplay experience. That's right, everybody. We'll be talking about that new Ubisoft release on this episode of the podcast. We're gonna be talking about El Paso Elsewhere. We're gonna be talking about Shadow Gambit, The Cursed Crew. And pop quiz, everybody, at the end of the podcast, we're gonna ask you the name of this game once again. If you can't remember, we failed as podcasters. We're going to be talking about Cocoon. We're going to be talking about Forza Motorsport. Leo, this has to be a mistake. On the breakdown, someone wrote down Riders Republic.
The only mistake is you treating me this way.
Yeah. And you will live to regret it, sir. Talking about Volcano High, and then back after the show, we have great questions submitted by the MinnMax community over there on Patreon. Charles, I'm excited to have you on because you seem to be more prepared for Assassin's Creed Mirage than any human being on Earth. Okay, wait, give me the full journey here. What is your prep for jumping into Assassin's Creed Mirage?
Okay, so in February of this year, I was playing Fortnite, and Ezio Auditore joined the Fortnite shop. And wasn't the first time. This was the first time I saw him there. And I was like, oh, I should buy Ezio. I'll be Ezio in Fortnite. Then I was thinking about Assassin's Creed a lot, and then decided I was going to do a full series replay to prepare for Mirage. So I played...
Full series?
Now, I didn't make it all the way through, but I played, I think, 10 games. I played 2 Brotherhood Revelations, 3 Black Flag, Rogue, Unity, Syndicate, and then the first one.
What the hell? What is your life? How are you capable of doing this? 2023 is a great year for games. That is ridiculous to cover.
Yeah, didn't you hear all those Assassin's Creed? Rogue, Syndicate.
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of a weird thing. It's also like this is gonna sound weird, but sometimes when you write about video games, you have to play video games you don't want to play. And it was kind of an exercise for me to be like, all right, going back in, we're going to play more Assassin's Creed Unity today.
So you're getting prepared for a life in games press. That's the idea of like, look, if you got to play Unity, that means you got to play Super Bomberman S2 in any moment of any day. You need to be ready to go.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And I got to Origins, which is where I initially fell off. And I think right when I got to Assassin's Creed Origins is when Tears of the Kingdom came out. And immediately I was just like, I would much rather play Zelda than this just huge Assassin's Creed game. And I don't think Origins is a bad game. I don't think that's consensus at all. For me, it wasn't really what I was looking for in an Assassin's Creed game. And it was kind of the reason I wanted to revisit the series, because it's kind of taken this turn in Origins Odyssey Valhalla, where it's making it much larger, super bulky games that you can spend like hundreds of hours in and then still have extra side quests to do. So I made it. I didn't complete my goal of getting through all of them, but I made through all of the classic style Assassin's Creed games. I
mean, that's all the prep you need for Mirage, right? Because they're kind of going back to that classic model. Because this game apparently is like 20 hours if you just do kind of mainliney stuff. They're kind of trimming it back down, getting back to the stealth routes and stuff. I've started it. Leo, how much time have you spent with Mirage so far?
4 hours, so just out of the first main assassination.
Okay, and then Charles, where are you at with Mirage then?
I'm at the exact same place as Leo.
Ooh, nice. Okay. Well, I mean, since you have everything swimming in your head, Charles, what do you think about Mirage so far?
I like it, but it's not... it's kind of like I spent all years eating cheeseburgers to prepare for this new ultimate cheeseburger, and then it ended up being another cheeseburger. Right. And I like cheeseburgers, but it is what I've been doing and it's what I expected. So it's not like reinventing the wheel. It is what these older games is. So it's you have a city you're focused in. It's stealth based. But at least from what I played so far, and there's much more of the game, but it's basically what I expected, I guess.
You've over prepared, because I think for the rest of the world, it's like, oh, this is the big nostalgic blast of we want everybody to go back to the game that feels maybe the most like the first Assassin's Creed that we've made since then, right? Of like, okay, we're back in the Middle East focusing on stealth and all this stuff. But yeah, shame on you for trying to prepare for this game, man.
I will say also, from playing it and having played Assassin's Creed 1 very recently, I think it plays how people remember Assassin's Creed 1 playing, but it is in practice. It does not feel, it's way more modern. It feels much better to play Mirage than it feels to play Assassin's Creed 1.
Yeah. What do you think of it so far, Leo?
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I really like the idea of returning to the roots, and it feels even less like the first game and more like the first game's trailer. Like the core pitch of what Assassin's Creed is, of like building up bit by bit through these investigations, which is how they handle quest lines in this game, which has been kind of moved towards in recent ACs. Like having that all kind of collectively build up to a big encounter with a bunch of different ways to do it. And then, getting your big kill and rubbing the feather on them in the dream world or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty good pitch. So far in the early hours, the systems are a little too bare bones. It's stalking from the shadows, assassinating, seeing two guys, waiting for one to walk away and go have a conversation with someone else, assassinating the first guy. All that stuff is really simple. And even the moves I'm starting to get don't seem to complicate it very much. It's weird when like the big heavy armored enemies you can still just assassinate like regular, like you don't have to do anything special. I don't know. It seems really in typical Ubisoft fashion kind of sanded off the edges of a stealth experience, which it feels pretty good mechanically, like just clearing out those bases systematically is pretty fun, but it's not very stimulating, I guess.
One of the most impressive things about that first one, and like still, if you look at it, is like the climbing is like way more detailed than the climbing in the recent games, because it's like literally every little knob he would like grab onto. And now, especially in like Odyssey, which is the most recent one I played, it's like you can just run straight up any wall and it kind of doesn't even matter. What is it closer to? Like, do you have to think about the parkour and the climbing stuff again?
Yes. No. I would say it's more, it's not exactly, there's definitely is more of a thing where you look at a wall and you can see like, I can't go straight up this, like I'm going to have to like sidle over to this window and then go on these exposed bricks here. It's not as puzzly. Like in Assassin's Creed 1, it would almost be like, it's going to be hard for you to climb this tower because you're going to have to really look for it. And this, it's more thought than that, but it's definitely not just flying up the wall.
Yeah, for sure. And stuff like peering in the windows, like they've done an interesting job with that, of how the camera can kind of zoom in and then you press A to hop in. I feel like that kind of drilling down on the premise, I think, is really cool, but there's not a ton of it. I wish the climbing and running felt more different, because that seems like the number one thing. I don't know if this is a controversial take, but it's crazy how bad the free running has always been in this series, which I like. I'm constantly trying to go up a wall and jumping off of a cliff into a bale of hay. It's so wild that they haven't fundamentally reworked how the running works.
Does it feel like that nostalgia blast for you, Leo? If you have so many fond feelings for the course of this series?
Yeah, there's a bit of nostalgia. It seems straight up like I have been here in Assassin's Creed before, even if I haven't literally, similar biomes.
Yeah. I mean, that said, Baghdad, I think, looks awesome from what I've seen so far. Like, running around that city, it's like there are so many ropes between these buildings, Jacob. You couldn't imagine how easy it is to get around this town. They really designed it with a playground mentality in mind.
And I like that some of the history tour stuff is a little more integrated. Like, there are collectibles now that just take you to 3 paragraphs about, like, you go to the shop area, the bazaar, and press triangle, and then you have like 3 interesting paragraphs to read about like what they're actually trading back in the 9th century. And I like having those little breaks, and it's a good way of, something that is really strong about the series, bringing that more into like part of the core experience of it. I think that is a touch I really like.
Yeah. What do you think what are the key ingredients to a good Assassin's Creed, Charles, after playing 4,000 hours of these things recently?
So I think that's what's so interesting about the series, is that what I would have said is important to Assassin's Creed when playing like the Ezio trilogy, and then what isn't included in like some of the bigger ones is like not what I would say. So like I would say stealth is super important, and it's become gradually less important. I think the city is important. Like, it should feel good to navigate, and I think this one does. I also, a thing that I have definitely found that is very hit or miss in the series, but pulls me through it a lot better, is when there's a good villain or like a clear force that you're working against. And I don't really feel like Mirage has had that so far for me.
Sure.
But just like the drive of like, what is going to make a person wear these white robes and run all over a city and kill like hundreds of people? Like, I really want to feel why they're so motivated to act this way. And this one was, I don't know, it was fine. It was also like the inciting incident. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it feels very like, oh, I touched the wrong thing. This guy's dead now. Oh man, now I guess I gotta go figure my new life out. But it didn't feel so much as like, I feel like it could have been more character driven in that sense. So
yeah, it doesn't feel distinct from anything we've done before in the Assassin's Creed franchise, which is like fine. But when it's 2 hours until you get to the game being open, then I am a little frustrated.
Right. Yeah, it was weird. It jumped into this, and I was playing like on high settings on PC, and I was still like, is Valhalla a better looking game than this is? I was kind of surprised, and then I was looking into it like, okay, it's wild that this game is also launching on last gen still. Like we're still in that era of like, oh, you can play this on a launch Xbox One if you want to, you know? It's a weird thing to think about. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, I enjoyed what I played of Valhalla. It is just weird to have that point of comparison, which I guess it's been 3 years even since Valhalla. So like in theory, fans are ready to go for new Assassin's Creed, but Mirage is going to be solid, but long-term unremarkable. Is that the high-level takeaway so far for Mirage?
So like every other Assassin's Creed that's released in the past decade.
Yeah, but I mean, I do wonder if it's going to have kind of that Black Flag level bounce in any way, thinking about like where Assassin's Creed is going to go in the future with, they've got the whole hub with Assassin's Creed Infinity, where they're going to be plugging in new stories and games there, and that's going to be kind of the bigger experiences ever expanding. So it kind of does feel like, all right, last rest stop, Assassin's Creed fans, before we go down this crazy roller coaster ride of making the entire game one big living game world hub. Let's go.
Which is too bad, because I feel like similar to Assassin's Creed 2, the sequel to this could be really good. Like the first big assassination, really promising. You're like finding distraction opportunities that you have to do kind of within this big market while avoiding guards, so doing your social blending throughout, and it get in a mission with this sense of scale. Like I think that works and is a cool effect.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll stick with it. I really like the simplification of loot, and when you find a golden chest, you're going to get something one of a kind out of it. Like that's instantly just more exciting. And seeing the skill trees, I was like, wow, I can count this number of nodes on this skill tree. That's crazy. But then going through them, it's like, oh, there's maybe 2 interesting ones here, and the rest feel like kind of filler. And again, the core moveset that they kind of start you out with just isn't meaty enough to feel exciting, and I don't know if there's going to be more on the skill tree that really changes that.
I think I agree with Leo. I think this is going to satisfy the people that have wanted this. I think that if you're like, I really wanted there to be a new classic style Assassin's Creed game, I think you're going to play this and you're going to like it. And it does its job well. I do question the staying power of it. But yeah, I think I like what you were saying about the skill trees, because I did look at that, and I feel like there should be a feeling in any kind of RPG like that where you're like, oh, I'm so excited to get to this level, or like, I can't wait till I can do this crazy new ability. And this was like, yeah, I mean, I want to do double assassinations because that's like a bread and butter thing in other games, but there wasn't a lot of stuff in there that I was like excited about.
Yeah, and maybe the tools are exciting because those aren't in the skill tree, but they're in the wheel and they're not. There's no clue given to what they're going to be, so nothing is really hooking me there.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the sales for this thing. Just as a game industry dork, I mean, Valhalla destroyed sales charts. I mean, I don't think they released specific numbers other than Ubisoft said we made over $1 billion off of Valhalla alone. So it just never stopped selling. I'm sorry, Jacob's shaking his head saying no.
No, I'm saying no, as in like, how did we let that happen?
Somebody should have stopped them. And so like the fact that it's been 3 years, you think a lot of people are going to buy this, but I wonder if just I feel like it's time for people to put their money where their mouth is. If they say they want these smaller games and smaller experiences than something so big and ever expanding like Valhalla, it's like, okay, we'll see. If Mirage doesn't sell, I think all big publishers are going to look at it and be like, okay, well, Valhalla versus this, I guess we got to go bigger and we got to make it more of a living game.
Hopefully the difference in scope and budget makes their targets not be so high, but there's no chance of that.
No chance. Also, this is the cool... Jacob, brace yourself, because this is the cool guy move. Me I chose to play this game in Arabic. And you know what, Jacob? It was better. Like, I really think like Basim's voice actor in particular, it's like, oh, it just sounds buttery smooth in Arabic. It sounds great. So I recommend it. Hey, Leo, I'm no hero. I'm just a normal guy. Please.
I was standing already, but this is a standing ovation.
What's the cat's name?
Backstage Chat has wanted to know where you'd rank Mirage amongst the other Assassin's Creed.
Oh, yeah.
Where's it looking like it'll go?
My favorites are Brotherhood, Syndicate, and Black Flag. Those are all like form the top 3. Those 3, 2. I forget what they're called. I like Rogue a lot.
Me too.
And then Assassin's Creed 3 was the first M-rated game that my mom bought for me. So there was like a particular lead up to that. So that holds a special place in my heart, even though I think objectively it's not as good of a game. And then probably Mirage. And then I did not really like Revelations or Unity. And then 1, I don't even really count 1 amongst the rest of them because it's like, I don't know. It's so Assassin's Creed 2 really like figured out what the series was doing in a way that I think 1 is still kind of trying to figure it out. So it's almost like a prequel to the series in my eyes. It is interesting though, playing it back and realizing how many things it explicitly says that the other games kind of imply, of like the controls is like a puppeteering concept of like every button is like, one is left hand, one is right hand, A is your legs and Y is your head on the Xbox controller anyway.
Oh,
so like,
weird.
Synchronization, like in that game, you don't have a health bar, it's your synchronization bar, because Altair doesn't take damage. So every time you get hit, it's like you're falling out of sync a little bit. And when you die, you lose synchronization.
Right.
And then in later games, they're like, we don't really care about the animus as much. It's just all health bars.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's good. It's fine. I think I'll keep playing it, and just for the sake of completing my burger tour of Ubisoft.
You gotta.
I can't wait to talk about Shadow Gambit, because it's a stealth game I've been playing that does so much amazingly well.
Yeah, let's get to it. First, I forgot to mention at the top of the show, we mentioned it on last week's episode, but The Deepest Dive, which is our series where we create the best, most thorough discussion about games on the internet, a huge multi-part game club discussion with the MinnMax community. We're letting all Patreon supporters vote over there at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Let them vote for what game we're tackling next. And it is between Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So if you're a supporter at even the $2 tier, you can jump in and literally determine the course of MinnMax's content and how we all spend a month going as in-depth as possible about any of those games. Charles, if you had to choose between those 3 games, what would you choose?
If you had to guess based on what you can see behind me,
I was going to say
which game I would choose. Peter Parker on my right shoulder, Miles Morales on my left.
Yeah.
I'm a big Spider-Man fan.
Okay, well, there we go. So Spider-Man fans, you can still win this thing. Jump in there at Patreon, see if it's doable. Any tier, let your voice be heard. I mean, we're doing it, so you do jump in there on Patreon. If I'm being honest, that's kind of our goals. We want you to jump in there, and then also you can unlock the podcast version of that Deepest Dive and submit comments for all that stuff. So thanks to everybody who's voted so far. We have a ton of votes, but it's fun to see. Hey, Jacob.
Yeah.
El Paso Elsewhere. You want to talk about this thing?
Yeah, take that, Leo. I'm talking about El Paso Elsewhere before Shadow Gambit.
That's right. No! Sit down, Shadow Gambit. You've had too much time in the spotlight. All right, El Paso Elsewhere. Jacob, this is indie version of Max Payne meets Blade?
Yes,
okay.
I think that's a pretty good elevator pitch. Interestingly, the game has a lot to do with elevators, so an elevator pitch is apt for this.
Perfect.
Yeah, so the pitch is kind of it is a game where you can do slow motion and shoot, dive, and hold 2 guns, and so all of that is very Max Payne. But you're killing vampires and werewolves and other mythical creatures, and has kind of the new wave of indie where at least the main characters look kind of PS1-y in that like their faces are really almost untextured, but like their bodies are kind of chunky in an interesting way.
It's a little Metal Gear Solid 1 look, you know?
Yes. Yeah, and so and really almost all of my like positive feelings, of which I have many of this game, are directed at kind of the aesthetic and the like the direction and kind of the like the music. Like it is, I have not been struck in a long time by like an opening cutscene as good as this game has. Like really, right off the gate, the game is like, it is shot incredibly well. Like the cinematography in these cutscenes, even with like PS1 kind of detail characters, is really impressive, and like their lighting engine is very good. It's almost, sorry for doing this, but it's like, it is almost like an Octopath Traveler of a PS1 game, where it is like, it's like the lighting and like post-processing effects are way beyond anything that could have been done. And so you have these fairly low detail characters, but like the way that they're lit is really impressive and cool. And you feel like, oh, I haven't seen this before.
Yeah, the entire game makes a case for style, where it's like, I think you even tweeted about it, Jacob, where like the core gameplay, yeah, it's Max Payne, which is freaking fun, but you would get sick of it. But it's just, they have just dialed up the style angle every step of the way, and it just hooks you so much differently because of that. And yeah, a lot of it's the lighting, or like for me, it's like, yeah, the cinematics, definitely interesting, intriguing. The part that got me is pretty early on in the game. You're running around shooting. All right, Max Payne, I remember how to jump in slow motion, got it. And then just a rap song starts playing. And is that the main voice actor for the main character who's also rapping?
Indeed it is.
That blew my mind. Of like, now it just sounds like my character. Not like in-game he's actually mouthing the words, but it's just so weird to have a song start playing where it's like, wait, that's the main character rapping. And it works surprisingly well for me, for just getting me so much more into the action as it's going through. Like, that's just where it set the hook.
Yeah. I mean, so honestly, my biggest thumbs up of the game is the main character and the voiceover, which is done by the director of the game. Like, he's director, VO, and is rapping for it. But like, I'm gonna be arguing for James, who's the main character of this game, like, as one of our characters of the year.
Really?
At the end of the year. I think the like, his delivery is so, like, the Max Payne delivery is very specific, and he is like doing a good job of doing that while also having like a very unique spin on it. And like, I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say like the story of this game is about like unhealthy relationships, and it's like, you know, all Max Payne's relationships are like, my wife is dead, right, you know, right. And like that's the extent that he has. And so to see kind of a character who is in many ways super gruff and whatever have this like really nuanced and kind of sad ongoing relationship with a character who is the antagonist of the game is like, it's just really good.
Charles, have you started this thing?
I played a little bit of it. So we've talked about my age a little bit. This is a game mimicking something that is like before my time. Max Payne 1 and 2 both came out before Lego Star Wars. Yeah, I mean, I was immediately struck by like the stylishness of it. And there's something like really, there's like a shot in the opening cutscene where he's looking right at you and his face is just, there's not much there. But for some reason it was like, I felt so affected by it. Like, I really felt like he was looking at me in this way that, like, just a video game cutscene connecting with me in a way I'm not really used to.
Right.
And I think something about the abstraction of it is like, you as the viewer can put your perception of him in that face. You know, totally. Like if I'm feeling a certain way, the vagueness of it only amplifies the way I'm feeling about it. So yeah.
And just the like the breaking fourth wallness of it is I love that it stares like just directly at you. I do have, so all that being said, I still think the game is pretty flawed as a game. Like the story part I am so hot on, but it is not that long of a game, but it feels really long, which is a kind of weird, I don't know. I guess that is just a normal criticism of something like feeling long. But the game is broken up into 50 individual levels that have like a start level, go through it, and end level. And 50 is a lot. Like that is a lot of levels. And there are really only like 4 or 5 enemy types.
Okay.
And it kind of feels at times like there are only 2 enemy types. Like you are doing a lot of killing the same enemies, and those enemies are in a very strange choice. They are melee only, which means that like slowing down time feels like it almost doesn't make sense, because the whole Max Payne thing is you dive to avoid the bullets being shot at you.
Right.
But like there's
right.
not that much point to, like, I played a lot of this game without using the slow motion because I was just like, well, I'm just shooting guys who are walking down a hallway at me. You know, like it's not that
They don't have
So
they don't have spitting vampires later or something wild like that.
they have 2 projectile enemies, but it's not really enough. You know, it
Sure.
just kind of doesn't do it. And the level design is kind of like, in some ways it is really interesting in that it like levels kind of change as you're going through them. It's kind of like an indie Ashtray maze from Control almost. Sure. But that's all kind of aesthetic interest, and like mechanically they're just very tight hallways that you kind of walk down the whole time.
Yeah.
And so it's just like it's not mechanically varied enough to make all of those 50 levels interesting. And so what you're playing for is the cutscenes between levels, or like the level. There are several levels where there's like a song that breaks out in the middle of it or something. But like by the end, I was like, I am just playing this to see the end. You know, like it really, I kind of ran out of mechanical interest significantly before the narrative ended.
Yeah, it's super early on. They teach you something. It's like, oh, that's an interesting idea. Where Leo, you're kind of fighting undead vampires, yada yada yada. But you know, you can roll through stuff. There's a lot of dodging around, jumping around, and then if you go through furniture, you get wooden stakes from breaking this furniture apart, and then that's how you can like stab the vampires and all that stuff. It's like, oh, it's kind of cool to have some incentive for jumping and rolling through stuff. It's like if you had smashed a pot in Zelda and got something that was like core to the combat every time you did that. That's kind of the effect. It's just a super smart little marriage of those 2 ideas.
Yeah, there are a lot of details that I like. Like, you have to manually reload. There is no, when you get to the bottom of a clip, it will not automatically reload. And so you get to sections where you've like emptied out all of your guns and there are things still coming at you, and you're like switching between like your shotgun and your SMG and your pistols, and they're all out of ammo, which is like a fun, stressful feeling. But like the things that you're shooting are just, they're not like worth it. You know, so it's tough because there are a lot of design things that I really like about this game, and then some that just, you know, I think it's a super ambitious game, and its scale kind of exceeded it in some way. Yeah,
I can hear that. It's from Strange Scaffolds, the name of the developer. They made an airport for aliens currently run by dogs, and they released Sunshine Shuffle that came out earlier this year too. But I still can't believe that's the head of the studio who's doing the VO. Like, that's such a recipe for disaster.
I know.
And the fact that he pulls it off so well is ridiculous. Yeah, it's like 6 hours long apparently for this thing. It's out on everything but PS5 and also not on Switch, but it's everywhere. Any chance you stick with it, Charles?
I don't know. I think I have to give it more time because I was really just dipping in to make sure I was like familiar with what it is. I do have a question.
Yeah.
So vampires, kill them with stakes.
Right.
Shoot them? You can shoot vampire. I mean, in the game you can. This was just a question I had for Jacob, who's played more of it. Of usually vampires have very specific killing conditions, and it seems like you're just shooting a lot of them. And that
maybe all the bullets are silver. You know, I'm not sure. Or no, that's werewolves.
It's just
or wood.
Sure, and then it just becomes a thing of like, all right, if it's not specific vampire killing rules, then our main character really should have brought a knife with him instead of having to pick up stakes all the time. But
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there.
I will say the game actually has, even though I'm not sure if it addresses that or not, but it does have like a pretty specific fiction. There are a lot of kind of like audio logs or just kind of passing lines where it's like our character is kind of a Blade or like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where it's like he's been doing this for a while and he's very familiar with like the different types of ghouls and goblins. And so like I think it actually has a pretty good internal fiction, what the bullets are made of aside.
Okay.
Yeah, if we haven't driven this home enough, like a stake through your heart, this game is Max Payne. Like, if you like the old Max Payne games, check out this game. If you like popping pills and jumping in slow motion and lying on the ground after you've done the jump and continue shooting, it more than anything, like, impressed with the style of El Paso elsewhere, and then also is just a reminder of like, God, forgot how amazing the first Max Payne was right when it came out. Like, playing that, just the PS2 version, it was just like going over to a friend's house, you have to see this. This is the coolest thing ever. And it turns out it might be.
And Remedy's remaking it?
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah, they're remaking it, and they said they're combining 1 and 2 into one game, which is an interesting idea, but both those games are, I guess, short enough where it's like, all right, curious to see how it goes. Yeah, unfortunately, Charles, you do have to keep playing it even if you don't want to, because every time you get a game over in the game, the text just says, you keep going, which is a much better thing to see instead of just game over. So there's no way out, buddy.
Here's the really cool thing. If you game over multiple times in the same level, the second time it says you keep going, it's like faster. So the first time it's like, you keep going. And then the second time it's like, you keep going. Like, it's really cool.
That's a smart idea. El Paso elsewhere, the name of that thing. Leo, you ready?
Let's try it.
All right. First quiz of the day. Jacob Geller, what's the name of this game we're talking about?
Oh, I even said it like minutes ago.
The game is called
Codex something?
That's right. Codex, something. That was the working title. The actual release title is Shadow Gambit, The Cursed Crew. Leo, what's your experience with this thing?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
What an interesting time for me to get into it right before Assassin's Creed came out, because then it's even more so can't help but compare it. Because this is a stealth game that's really systemically rich. It's kind of top down, but it is still controlled real time with great controller support. That's how I've been playing it. So it's kind of got those strategy elements of really planning and that precision stealth feeling of knowing all the information that you could possibly want to have of everybody's view cones, studying their patrols, seeing from above every bit of their patrol, what they go and do, having all that information, but still having that kind of like tactile way to interact with it, which I find I often need to really get sucked into a game. And I'm fully sucked into this.
Oh, how much have you played?
I have no idea. Probably 10 hours at this point.
Okay, yeah. Dude, Leo, I am totally with you. We talked a little bit about this studio. It's the studio Me. They're, we're always talking about Me on this podcast, right, Jacob Keller? No, but we talked about them in the community questions. Jeff was a big fan of their previous games, like Desperados 3 and stuff. And so heard about them plenty and heard about this game, but I just didn't connect, because in my mind it was pitched as like, oh, it's tactics stealth. I was like, that's extremely not my jam. But Leo, I started this thing, first of all, perfect Steam Deck game. And second of all, it's just one of those games you start, it's like immediately just overwhelming sensation of like, this is so well done. This is such a rock solid game. And then it's like, oh wait, this is real-time stealth. This just feels like isometric Dishonored. Like, it's so much better than I think the pitch of tactics stealth. It's much more active and interesting than that if you're not a tactics fan.
Totally. And the way it expands past that in complexity, like maybe you could beat this whole game on certain difficulty levels without ever pausing and doing this. But a mechanic that I use all the time is that like plan and execute. It pauses the game and you can set the next action or two that your guys are going to do. You have a team of 3 for most missions once you get into it. And you end up like, I'm on the second to highest difficulty, which is a jump up in terms of difficulty of enemy setups. It does a good job of showing you like their view cones are going to be longer. Here's all the things that are going to be harder if you choose this difficulty. And the enemy setups, having just one person I can kill and carry into a bush and get them out is so rare. It is so much more often I have to study this camp. Here's all the patrols. Here's who's going to see who if I try to do something. And then go, okay, maybe I can, if I get these 3 at once, nobody will see. And then you have to focus on doing distractions to get your 3 people in position. And then you do your little pause and set those actions and execute. And then watching your 3 characters do the 3 things you told them to do is super, super satisfying. And you do that not just for kills, but for like hiding bodies quickly.
Yeah.
Like all these, you find these little pockets of time you have to make stuff happen in, and having little plans to execute on the fly like that feels so good and controls so well.
Do you think that deeper into this game, even on a normal difficulty, I will need to jump into that too? I'll need to get used to like the plan and execute instead of doing everything real time?
Probably.
Okay.
Are you on the second difficulty? I
think I'm just on normal, yeah.
Yeah. It's like on one difficulty higher, it is like from the second level, I have never seen something and gone like, it's so rare I see something and go, this feels possible. Like I literally will stare at these encampments for 10 minutes and go like, there's no way to do this. Next mission, I got to bump the difficulty down. But invariably, I will find this one little point, which is always the most satisfying part about stealth games and is really easy in Assassin's Creed, really difficult and nuanced in Hitman, and great in this is like observation and patience being rewarded in, oh, this is the little weak point that I can, take advantage of. And with these characters, you feel so smart in the ways you're taking advantage of it. The character designs are awesome and so varied, and it's like 8 characters with all completely different abilities. There's one that can go underground and pop out and kill somebody and pull them back under the earth, or as I did, just go underground, pop up at a cannon, hit fire on it to take out 2 people, and dip back down under the earth, and all in like a half-second window where a guy is not looking at you.
That's so sweet.
And there's also a Hitman type guy that can possess bodies. And another, this one was one of the hardest things I ever did, was this one little base that I looked at for, I swear to God, 15 minutes. I was like, I should just do something else, come back to this with fresh eyes, but I didn't. And the solution that broke the whole thing wide open was, I go, and with this guy who's in disguise, you're allowed to just walk around enemy places, but you're really limited how far you can go. Turn off a light, and then this guy sees it, goes, oh, I gotta go turn that light back on. He goes over to it, and I interrupted him by just pressing A to distract, and your character will have a little conversation with him. And in that window, where he's looking away and the light is off, I had somebody else slip behind and go into this building, where then I could start picking people off and like work out of that as a base.
Perfect.
Little moments like that are so satisfying, and it doesn't feel like it was designed to be solved that way. It's these giant levels with hundreds of enemies, and you can carve your way through it to get to the objective in any way with any set of characters. And it feels so self-driven in that way.
And then the cool thing is, once you finish a mission, then it'll show your path, like kind of the Breath of the Wild map, like all the different areas that you went to complete it. It's such a cool idea.
I have watched that every single time.
Yeah.
And been fondly remember like, oh, yep, that's how I did that. And then you see the 3 guys do 3 kills at once, and you're like, yep, that was awesome.
Yeah. And they encourage you heavily in the beginning to like use quick save and quick load. Like it's contextualized within the world. Like, oh, we have memories, these spheres things. And like, they taught me how to do it, and I'm one of those idiots who's like, oh, I'll get back to that, I'll use it at some point. But they really beat you over the head with like, you should be using this all the time. Get used to quick save, quick load, please.
Which is something I want to talk about, because that is like the standout best thing about this game, I think, that other games should learn from, is the quick save mechanic. It never quick saves for you, except for the start of missions. It just reminds you by putting a little bell on screen, like in the world, because in the lore, it's the soul of your ship that you're telling to capture the memory of this moment. And whenever you capture it or load from it, there's some line of dialogue about like, okay, let's try that again or whatever. And integrating that into the lore and having there be no load screen, it's just like a couple seconds of this memory like smashing open and this cool animation. The way it makes it feel like quick saving and quick loading is a part of the experience of a game like this, which it is. It's not you're screwing up until you do it the one right way. It's like this whole thing is one adventure that you're having with these people. I think that's such a smart way to reframe it in your mind and be less frustrated. It's like explicitly constantly going, this is how you play the game.
Yeah. How often are you unlocking characters? Because the whole premise for the game, I guess we haven't really said too much, but Shadow Gambit, the Cursed Crew, of course, Jacob, is pirates. And so you're on like a ghost ship, and then you're like using a black pearl to revive different corpses on the ghost ship, at least in the beginning, to like start to get your characters and stuff. So is that a big chunk of the game, is kind of just building up, and that's the reward, is finding more and more corpses to revive with black pearls?
Yeah, you need 1 soul energy and 1 black pearl, and it's a mission each to get those, with some 4 story missions in between. And the whole narrative so far has been like, you have to build up your group of people. Like, that is essentially the narrative.
Right.
So that's mainly what you're focused on. And it ends up being like once every hour or two, depending on how long the missions take you. Sometimes they can take a really long time. And the character designs I do want to shout out too.
Yeah.
The main character you get, her sword is impaled in her chest. It's because you're all undead. You're a cursed crew.
So that's like
and
her
when she
sheath. Like,
unsheathes it,
yeah.
she pulls it out of her chest. And it's like, in the side conversation, I found out it like places her in space time. And when she takes it out, that's how she can do her blink move.
Oh,
Where she jumps like 15 feet across and kills somebody.
Interesting. Okay.
There's some surprisingly cool narrative stuff like that. And every character I've gotten so far has been so unique and cool. The treasure hunter guy who is headless and has a treasure chest on his back and a fishing pole that he can use to interact with things from afar, drop like environmental things on people, or pick up bodies. So often my plan is, okay, this guy can get in, but then they have to spend the next couple seconds getting out. Absolutely, there's nothing else they have time to do, but I can have this treasure chest guy yoink the body with the fishing role and pull it back into cover. And that being one plan that gets set in motion, like the way bodies matter like that, and the way there are all these different characters with all these cool ways to deal with them. And you're getting these characters in your chosen order. You're choosing who to revive and when based on what sounds fun.
Yeah.
The character variety, I think, is what elevates this from good to great for me, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Like even the first choice for me, I assume it's the same for everybody. It's like, okay, you kind of get like a plant person, like a plant-based lady, or a wild Japanese skeleton guy who I like. When you revive him immediately, he's like, the Japanese thing. He's like, I've been dead for a lot longer than I was ever in Japan. So like, I'm just a skeleton. Don't pay attention to the Japanese thing too much. But it's like, all right, I love the idea of like, God, I forget what it was. He had some ability where I'm like, well, as cool as a plant lady sounds, like I can't say no to the skeleton. It was some distraction technique that seemed really good. I'm trying to remember the specifics of it, but
You're always choosing between things that sound great.
Yeah.
And then when you're in the mission using them, you're like, I can't imagine having anything else here. But that's true for no matter what combination of characters you're bringing.
yeah. In the Monday meeting, I made some reference to this, Leo, and you said, what? Do you know the saga of the studio shutting down?
Not at all.
Yeah, so Me is the name of the developer, and just, was it last month or so, they announced that the studio was shutting down. And it was one of those just like heartbreakers of the industry, because you look, it just had this track record of releasing this style of game, and all of them have been super high quality. I mean, the reviews for this thing, for the people who play it, are off the charts. And once again, the name of this game is Shadow Gambit, The Cursed Crew. It's like everybody loves it. It's just it never quite locked into a wider audience. And so they sent out an announcement just being like, we've been doing this for a while. For our own mental health, we're just going to stop. We're shutting down as a studio. We can't do it anymore. And it's just heartbreaking to see. But I guess in like this strategy-focused world, when a game like Marvel's Midnight Suns can't even pull it off, it's like, I guess a great indie like this, it's just a tough spot to break into.
Yeah, that's really sad. I know this is like a spiritual sequel, the stealth element of it, from another game of theirs called Shadow Tactics.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to check that out after this one. But yeah, that's a bummer, because I feel like this came out in August, right? Came out recently.
It's pretty recent, yeah. Yeah, it's really right after it released everywhere. But how'd you find it?
I saw it in my Epic library. And sometimes you got to go with your gut. I looked at the Steam page and I was like, why not give this an hour? And I fell in love.
There we go. Shadow Gambit, The Cursed Crew. It's available absolutely everywhere. I gotta say, it's a great Steam Deck game. And like, if I didn't feel compelled to keep up with current games for a rotation of this podcast, like the point is, this is a game I am most excited to play more of. When I think of like, if I just had free time and not a podcast pressing with some other games I got to get to, like this is the game that I would go back to at this point. Like I was really, really blown away just by the opening of this game. And
yeah, I'm glad you tried it. It's one of those games that, you see overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. You say there must be something here.
And there is. Shadow Gambit, The Cursed Crew. Cocoon. Who's been playing Cocoon? Jacob and Charles. Sweet. Has anybody finished it?
No,
I think I'm
started
about halfway.
Okay, nice. Hot take, Jacob, hit us. What do you think of Cocoon?
it's amazing how much you can do with one button.
Yes. That is the wild thing. So
it's a one button game.
Yeah, I mean, they're running around, but for action, interaction, yeah, it's just the one button. But if you don't remember Cocoon, this is from the lead designer, I believe, from the Playdead series, so Limbo and Inside. This is the game. We've seen it pop up again and again at some showcases, at Day of the Devs, stuff like that. It is a 3D game, unlike Limbo and Inside, isometric puzzle game where it looks like you're a little bug dude, and it's a lot about picking up orbs and moving them around. And it's artsy and atmospheric and cryptic in all those ways. But that is my take as well, Jacob. Just like, it's simple but effective. Good ingredients for puzzle design, and turns out that's all you need. Like the pitch of, we're going to make a game where the puzzle dynamic is largely just around running around a space and moving an orb around. Like, good luck. I don't know what the pitch is here exactly. And then you play this, it's like, oh, this is just a rock solid puzzle adventure game. Got it.
I think the other major takeaway is sometimes it's okay if puzzles are easy.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I have not been stumped by a puzzle for more than 30 seconds, the whole game. And that's fine, because it's like, it's not, I'm not playing it to tease my brain. It's like, it is just like a very satisfying, it's just like, the sounds are good and moving around is good. And the puzzles provide like something for you to do that's not walking forward, but like, it's just kind of like the structure for the aesthetics. And it's another game where it kind of feels like the aesthetics are the point.
Well, I'm kind of curious to see where it goes and if it gets a lot harder in the second half here. It's only like a 4-hour game to beat. It's pretty short overall. But I mean, even like Inside, as much as I love that game, I don't think of it as like truly devious puzzles. Like, as somebody who's wary of my own intelligence when it comes to puzzles, I was never beating my head against a wall stump in Inside.
No, but Inside has a lot of parts where you die.
Right.
Inside is like a platformer with puzzles, and this has no platforming, and there have been like 2 boss fights, but more or less no. You're not ever going to die in the world by like falling off something.
Is it always the case? Because like in the first boss fight, instead of dying, you just kind of get tossed out, because they deal with these orbs as they're kind of like world within the orbs. So I thought it was such a smooth, cool thing. Like, instead of just game over screen or you keep going game over screen, which is so trite at this point, just to have the boss be like, blah, and just toss you and just like, blah, and go flying out of the orb and then just jump back in and keep continuing the boss fight. Yeah. It's such a cool idea.
And I mean, like, we should talk about the going in, going out
right.
is so good looking that it's like basically the whole structure of the puzzles is you have like a world in a marble and a world outside a marble, and then you have more marbles that you're carrying around that each have like different worlds in them, and so you're kind of like hopping into them to like activate things inside and outside and move to places inside that you couldn't get outside, and etc. And it's just like the animation of jumping a layer down or coming a layer up is like so nice looking and just kind of instantaneous, and like it feels like it would be like a thing that happened in a cutscene once, but it's like a major gameplay mechanic and you're just doing it constantly. Like Inside, it is just like impeccably smooth.
Yeah. Yep. That has another big takeaway is picking it up. It's like, for a puzzle game, it's like somehow it feels great to run around in this little isometric puzzle game. I don't know if it's like the speed of your little bug dude or what, but just immediately just feels so solid. But yeah, Charles, what do you think so far?
Yeah, I was going to say just the fact that the puzzles are simple enough that you don't have to think about them very long, I think allows the game to have you focus on other things. Of like the fact that the world is so kind of cryptic and abstract. The fact that I'm just like, oh, I'm going to run this orb here and this is going to make a bridge appear or whatever. I can really be like, what are these things? Who is this guy? I got an achievement that said I can't even remember what it was. It was like a moon demon or something. And I was like, the game didn't tell me that. I don't know how I was supposed to know it was called that. But yeah, I appreciate that the game it's like clears its plate of one thing to make a lot of room for another thing.
Right.
And I will say I played it on Steam Deck, and I thought it would be really like perfect for it, but it kind of had trouble running the jumping in and out of worlds things. Like that was causing like some stuttering and freezing on my version. I have like the lowest model of Steam Deck or whatever.
Sure.
So that was kind of surprising to me because I didn't think it would be that intense. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it works everywhere else, so it's not like a deal breaker or anything. But
yeah. It is available on Switch. I haven't looked into that version too much, but it's available everywhere. It's also on Game Pass too, if you want to check out Cocoon here. But yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this one. A nice short experience in that vein. Like I'm intrigued to see everything this game has to offer.
It almost feels like this is a comparison that will put people off. So if that's you, don't listen to me.
Perfect.
But it kind of reminds me of Scorn from last year, like the super gross Geiger game.
Yeah.
Just because it's like a wordless story, you're interacting with these weird, like almost organic or sometimes very organic feeling like machines, and like you're making bridges, but the bridges seem like they're made out of like bones or like weird stuff. It's just like everything feels very like tactile and very kind of sticky, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to touch that, but your little bug touches it, and it's just like it is a great sense of place for an isometric game that doesn't really have any narrative as far as I can tell.
Yeah, are you more intrigued by the narrative of Cocoon, Jacob, or Humanity?
Humanity is much higher on my list this year than Cocoon generally.
Okay. Gotcha.
Humanity rules.
Humanity rules, everybody. Cocoon, check it out, everybody. People in the community have been playing it. I seem red hot on it. The name of the developer is technically Geometric Interactive here, and then it's an Annapurna joint, but you could have guessed that just by looking at it. I'd imagine it's as Annapurna as it gets here. Let's see. I've been playing the reboot, I guess you'd call it, for Forza Motorsport. The new Forza game is out. This is not the Horizon series. This is the mainline, the racing game where it all began. So this is the first one that's just for modern systems here. So no last gen. This is just for the modern Xboxes. I assume there are a handful of people out there like me that love the Forza Horizon games and have always been curious about the mainline. Like somehow I've dodged playing a mainline Forza through its entire existence. And so jumping into this one, I was curious how it went. And turns out it's fun. It's good. I mean, the high level simplistic takeaway is like, if you like Gran Turismo 7, you'll probably like Forza Motorsport. If you want to play an unbelievably good looking racing game that's not open world, Forza Motorsport's going to be your ticket. Leo, is there any chance you'd ever check out a non-open world racing game like Forza?
Being that I wouldn't even check out an open world racing game, probably not.
Damn it.
But I hope there's a podcast out there that only does racing and sports games.
Yeah.
And fills this hole in the market. And for those poor people who like them and don't have people talking about them very much.
And then it's just topping the charts and none of us are paying attention. But if we just dabbled more in that arena, I do wonder, the same way that I think like with, action adventure games, open world RPGs, all this stuff has kind of that clamoring, kind of an Assassin's Creed style way of like, just make a smaller game. Not everything has to be an open world. Stop going open world with everything. Like, I do think that exists within the racing community. And so I'd imagine they're very thankful for something like this. And it's even just, as somebody who's not sick of open world racing games, like it's nice to jump into a game like Forza Motorsport here. And just like, it's nice to get to know a track. Like you pick a track, you go through a whole list here, and then you just do a practice run of that track, and then you jump into the race. And so just getting that sense of like, okay, I really need to care about this turn. It's something that doesn't exist, I feel like, in most open world racing games where it's like, I just go over here, blah, 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 blah. So that level of focus and study. And also just if you've never gotten into one of these racing games, the same goes for like Gran Turismo 7, where it's just, they're some of the cleanest, prettiest games around. Just smooth, fine dining, It's like, it's just a nice, chill vibe. We're going to bring you through this one step at a time. And Jacob, now that you fall in love with Armored Core 6, you can get into this and you can get into tinkering a car, because what's better than a mech other than a car?
Take the guns away.
And then I'll just get into, I don't know, carpentry. I'll just like build a house.
I'm not saying don't. No, it is nice. If you're worried about that level of like, I don't care about my engine parts. It's just for Forza here in the mainline thing, you can hit one button, it like auto builds everything for you, and then you can just stick with the racing. And you know, it's on Game Pass. It's coming out October 10th if you want to check it out. But I had a good time with it.
Do you think this game would help you go from gamer to racer?
I think it'll probably help you go from gamer to racer. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the film.
One day they'll make a movie about you?
I could only hope. Also, talking about it being just so good looking, because it is so good looking. I mean, what do you think is the best looking console game right now on the market that you can buy?
Console game?
Yeah. Is it this?
I mean, I feel like it's always racing games, right?
Yeah, it's kind of the boring answer,
like,
but
is it still Drive Club on the PS4? The
somehow
best looking
it is.
game I've ever seen.
Somehow it is. Man, I'm still kind of locked in that model too. Like, I feel like for so long, I always just went for my default answer of like, well, The Order 1886 is the best looking console game, you know? And now it's like, well, something surpassed it. I just don't have a confident take on what it is. So let's all just agree that it's Forza.
I mean, it's weird because things are good and bad at different things. Like I think about this a lot because I recently played Last of Us Part 2 for Something Raw on my podcast, and it's like there are no faces that look better than the faces in that game.
Yep.
Like it's just like nothing even feels close. You know, but then that's like it's not the best at everything. But you do see, you know, playing another game. You look at Assassin's Creed, and it's like, man, this is 400 times worse faces than The Last of Us, but it's like it's doing a bunch of stuff that The Last of Us couldn't do. So like, you know, I'm not going to say it's worse, you know, in total.
Yeah. Oh, Backstage Pass is saying, what about Calypso Protocol, Jacob? Those faces versus Last of Us faces.
Oh, those faces are really good.
Good faces.
I think it's the most beautiful thematically.
Yeah, we all agree about that. The weird thing about Forza here is it's refreshing to see this level of just raw horsepower, but it's the first time I've seen it where it's like, hey, performance mode running at 60, it's also going to be running at 4K here. It's like, what a rare thing. They're really doing it. And then you can choose for a 1080 option or a variable resolution option that has ray tracing on it as well, which I tried on like a nice TV, and I don't see the ray. I don't get it. No, Leo.
I kind of think ray tracing is a psyop. Every time it's like, it'll make your game run half as good, but look at this. I'm like, what am I looking at?
Ray tracing, don't you see it?
It's in my mind because literally last night I was out walking around after it had just rained, and the night streets reflecting the street lights, and I was like, this looks like some good ray tracing.
But reality dipped to like 20 frames per second when you were looking at it.
Yeah, I had a really stuttery walk animation.
Leo, speaking of stuttery walk animations, as you walk to the store again and again to buy a copy of Riders Republic.
Don't run.
That's right, Leo. Tell me about they added skateboarding to Riders Republic, your beloved game.
They finally did, and it's right outside the window of, or maybe it's way outside. I don't know what time is, but it was outside the first year. So if you had a year one pass, you have to pay for skateboarding anyway, and it's $25 to $40 depending on what version you get, which is a little steep.
Yeah,
ironically. But I think it's really good. It's like BMX in that, you know, I went into it going, they're gonna have to make some cuts to fit it into Riders Republic's controls, and being in a game with 8 other sports, it's not going to be quite as tight as a dedicated BMX game, a dedicated skateboarding game or whatever. But just like BMX, it blew my expectations away that way. It's like, you know, 80% of the way there, and that's way higher than it has any right to be. It's in itself a really solid skateboarding game that feels a lot like Skate.
I mean, okay, it feels like Skate because everyone just goes, oh, this doesn't feel like Tony Hawk, therefore it's trash. I mean, but this is more in the Skate line than the Tony Hawk line.
Yeah, definitely. The way tricks work feel a lot more skatey.
Okay.
And there's a lot more than I thought there would be, tricks wise. I don't know if anybody cares about this, but they added like a new button for different types of grabs. So now you can do more grabs than I thought you'd be able to do.
All right.
And that's fun. But it's really gotten me thinking, like, you know, I'm past the point where I really am dying for a new skateboarding game. Like, I will play them, but I won't get obsessed with them. And with Skate 4, it's like, I'm sure that'll be cool, but it's hard to picture it being more appealing to me than like skateboarding as part of this service game where I have all these other sports and all these outfits unlocked and where it's all connected and where the second I get bored of skateboarding, I can switch to another sport.
Right.
Like that's an enticing product.
Yeah, so the takeaway for Skate 4 is going to be like, hey, it's solid, but if you dig into Riders Republic, secretly there is skateboarding that is equally as satisfying, except you can do a whole lot more.
No, nobody's going to say that.
No one's going to say that.
Until they add BMX to Skate 4.
Right,
And
right.
it's the old Uno reverse card.
Yeah, they backdoor
Skate
their
4
way
has a
into-
wingsuit. What's happening here?
Is that a stink bug?
Oh,
Big old bug that was just on my foot. Big old bug.
Leo's bringing out the stink bugs on the podcast. That's pretty cool, actually.
Oh, but it comes with a skateboarding career that's like 15 events that are fun. Nothing very surprising except the fact that it works as well as it does.
Yeah. And when was the last time you booted up Riders Republic before this?
Month or two ago.
Okay, all right.
It's definitely a game I keep installed to check in on, and always mean to get further in the season pass than I do.
Right.
But
Hey.
it's fun every time I boot it up. There's no doubt about that.
Hey, we're proud of you, man. We're glad you stuck with it. You're spreading the good word about Riders Republic in a way no one else is.
Thanks.
And it'll live forever. Hey, Jacob. Haley talked about it a little bit. Goodbye Volcano High, the dinosaur high school game. Did
That's
you
right.
finish this thing?
I finished it.
Okay. Haley had, last time we talked about it, without spoilers, how does it end? Does it land well?
Oh, I thought you meant how does it end? And I was like, the way it promises to end. But yeah, well, I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen more people talking about this game. I mean, I know that it is like, it's a big season for games, obviously. Like, there are a million things coming out. This podcast is 3 hours long, as we've just been talking about every game. But this game has been in development for a really long time. It has a really striking visual style. And it came out and it like basically delivers on, I feel like, everything that it was promising to do. Here's a statement. Probably the best looking visual novel I've ever played.
Okay, sure.
If you want to classify it like that, because it is animated in a way that almost none of these games are. Like,
Right.
it really looks like you are watching like a mid-budget kid, like maybe, I don't know, Steven Universe, or like, you know, honestly, it has a lot of My Little Pony energy in the character design, but I say that as
Okay.
someone who's not a fan of My Little Pony, but recognize that that show has like strong character designs. You know, it's like the characters are like, the framing is done well. It's not like you're seeing just the same character portrait constantly whenever they pop up. It feels like they are like standing in their environment. And the other thing about it is like the music, because it's like a game about being in a band, is like the best band I've heard in a video game. Like a fictional
Interesting.
band created for a game, like head and shoulders above other stuff.
Wow, that's sweet.
Even Night in the Woods.
Yes. Yeah. I think Night in the Woods is like a pretty good comparison for this game in a lot of ways, because it's like, you know, it's about being like a kind of aloof teenager or whatever. But like Night in the Woods, I think, still sounds a little video gamey. And like these songs, they legit sound like a Phoebe Bridgers song or something. Like they are, you do not have to put for a video game after talking about how these songs are good. And I've just been like listening to the soundtrack like I would listen to an album.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to like put this out same year as like Stray Gods, another kind of visual novel, but also with big musical sequences going through it. And then We Are OFK came out not too long ago, which is also kind of the same thing, you know, for just a...
Yeah, I haven't played OFK. I haven't played Stray Gods. I have played OFK, and it's like the OFK music is just not, you know, also obviously it's subjective, but like this is really hitting. And the main voice actor also does all the singing for that character, and like they are really, really strong.
It's a regular El Paso elsewhere situation again.
I was gonna say there's gotta be someone's gotta rank all the video games where the main character also does vocals in the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's true.
Volcano High, but I mean, you think any chance it like makes your 210 levels of good, or it's just, hey, this is a really good little dinosaur visual novel? People
It
didn't
would
pay
definitely be on my second 10. It might be on my top one. I think, you know, it it will test your tolerance for, shall I say, Life is Strange style dialogue, which, like, I don't think is bad. Like, I think Life is Strange is a good game, but, like, you gotta get over that hump of, like, it's going to be a little cringy to listen to at first because they're high schoolers, and, like, also it's adults writing high schoolers or whatever, but, like, it just... It's very earnest and very kind of on the nose sometimes, and you know, it's a game about being in high school. So if you have a tolerance for that, I think it's really good.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, Volcano High. I know Haley really enjoyed it too. Leo, do you know how this whole thing operates? This whole podcast we're doing right now?
How many guesses do I have?
You have 3 guesses. Answer me. Guesses 3.
Money?
In a way.
Coins, specifically.
Some would say.
Okay, so I'm circling it. Cashier's checks.
That's right, which can be deposited at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Select a tier that's right for you. We should have a penny tier or some sort of coin-based tier. Would that be fun? Where you just like, you put it in like a little arcade machine, a little quarter every month?
Coin for your Witcher tier.
That's right. Go there, find a tier that works for you. Any tier whatsoever. You can vote on which game we're tackling next for the deepest dive. Also, you unlock a ton of benefits over there. So find the tier that's right for you, because if you find something that's sustainable for you, that means that it's sustainable for us. So thanks everybody for jumping over there to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. And thank you to some of our biggest supporters. I'm talking about folks like HelloFresh. Who's better than HelloFresh? Name one person better than HelloFresh, Leo.
Good person. Struggling to think of a good person here.
You can't do it.
To me. No.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. They have conquered the earth, this HelloFresh. They say with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That, of course, is why it's America's #1 meal kit. You know, if you got a busy time in your life coming up, which it looks like I'm going to have a very busy time coming up on top of having a little newborn baby, I need things like HelloFresh. Every time I open my fridge and there isn't HelloFresh meals in there, I spit on the floor in a blinding rage. It's just horrific. But HelloFresh can help out. A crazy schedule can make it easy to fall back into your dinner time recipe rut. Keep mealtime exciting with over 40 recipes to choose from every week. There's always something delicious to discover with HelloFresh. They want you to know you can turn to HelloFresh Market for yummy add-ons and enjoy the season's limited time fall flavors lineup. Feast on desserts like, okay, what's better than this? Desserts like apple cider cake with caramel sauce, or please a crowd with appetizers like the barbecue pulled pork nachos. And don't forget the mini pumpkin cheesecake, perfect for a me-time treat.
And one of the add-ons is a little container of spit you can just dump on the floor, which saves you time and energy.
We're here to help. Go to HelloFresh.com/50MinnMax. Use code 50MinnMax for 50% off plus free shipping. Go to HelloFresh.com/50MinnMax and use 50MinnMax as the code for 50% off plus free shipping. Also, thank you to our friends at I Am 8-Bit. They want you to know about Toem. They have the Nintendo Switch physical edition for Toem in I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store. It includes 4 character standees allowing you to photograph your favorite characters in the wild, just like in the game. It's a very cool idea. They also have the PS5 physical edition, I Am 8-Bit exclusive, and you can also get it with the vinyl soundtrack or buy the vinyl soundtrack separately for Toem. And because it's an I Am 8-Bit joint, you know that it looks amazing, great presentation. Help support them. They're doing cool stuff all around the game industry. Check out their online store, and you can use the promo code OOPSALLGHOULS. OOPSALLGHOULS for 10% off of everything under $100 in I Am 8-Bit's wonderful online store. Get somebody a Halloween present. Give that gamer in your life a Halloween present of a lifetime by going to iam8bit.com. Help support them because they help support us. They support MinnMax in a big way, this I Am 8-Bit outlet, by shipping out a prize each and every week to a member of the community, whoever submitted the best question over on Patreon. If you support us at any tier on Patreon, again, you can make the show better by submitting a question. We choose our favorite. And this week, I Am 8-Bit's going to ship out the vinyl soundtrack to the Super Mario Brothers movie. which is so good. This is the original soundtrack, not the licensed music, but it's something that was so good. Once I saw they had that partnership, I immediately reached out to be like, could I just get a copy of that? Because I really want to have that for my record player. So I was literally laying back on my couch the other day and listening to that soundtrack on vinyl. It is so cool.
That's got the bonus pieces that were like, they replaced with Take On Me, right?
Right.
Like music that was going to go in certain sequences.
Right. Yeah, so check it out, everybody. And iMateBit is very kind to ship it out. So whoever has the best question of the week. So we all have to remember, Charles, every single person who wrote in, and we need to deem them worthy of a Mario vinyl if you're ready for that.
Gotcha.
Okay, here we go. Joseph Stanichar says, hey, since we have a Cincinnatian here, I've been craving it since leaving the area. Can Charles please explain the wonders of Skyline chili to everyone else and why those who hate it are simply wrong?
Whoa. Kind of a bias in that question, which I agree with for the record.
Okay. Well, then it's not even
Have any of you
bias.
had Cincinnati style chili before?
What? I'm trying to
Only
remember
heard of
there's something on top of it that's novel. I just don't remember what it is.
Underneath it.
Is it the spaghetti?
It's the spaghetti.
That's right.
Oh.
Okay, so here's the thing about Cincinnati style chili that people get hung up with. Don't think of it as chili. I think that will immediately make you feel better about it because there's a lot of things in this. It's basically a meat sauce you're putting on this spaghetti. A lot of components that are always or usually in chili that are not in this sauce. So
Right.
meat, yes. I assume it's tomato based, probably. There's not like onions in this. There's no beans. It's basically just like a meat sauce. It's also got some like cinnamon flavor in it. It's not like mainly cinnamon, but it is included.
What?
And a three-way, a Skyline three-way is Skyline's a restaurant that serves Cincinnati style chili. It's like the biggest chain here. But that's spaghetti, chili, and then a mountain of shredded Wisconsin cheddar cheese.
Jesus.
And then you can upgrade from a three-way to a four-way that adds onions or beans. Five-way is onions and beans.
Classic five-way.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to tell Ohio what to do, but just call it super spaghetti. Don't call it Skyline.
Call it super spaghetti.
Yeah.
Why super spaghetti?
Because that's a better angle. I'd be more interested. Just mega spaghetti. How about that? That's a cleaner thing to say in a restaurant, right? Omega spaghetti, alpha omega spaghetti. It's better than.
That's the obvious solution.
Yes.
We do have Guy Fieri came to Blue Ash Chili years ago for Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and they have a special three-way that adds. It's like huge, and it also adds like fried, I think, jalapeno peppers. And that one's the No Freakin' Way. And that's a pretty fun name. No Freakin' Way.
That seems all right, yeah.
Anyways, some people say it's really gross, and it's not. It's just a food that you haven't had before.
It sounds delicious.
And I am from Cincinnati, so I do feel very strongly about it, but I also fulfill the stereotype because I probably eat it once a week. I eat it all the time.
Wow.
Jesus. I mean, how many states have a signature food? You think half of them are clocking in something for like, this is ours, baby.
Half?
Half?
Great question.
That's pretty high.
Do you think? Okay, so we got Ohio for chili, Minnesota, I guess, for Juicy Lucy or Tater Tot Hot Dish. I guess.
Yeah, hot dish is what I hear and see in tourist merch.
Okay, so that's
shops.
right. Yep. So we're talking airport gift shop. We'll highlight the Tater Tot Hot Dish. North Carolina.
I mean, it's like, barbecue, but that's shared with South Carolina and other places. A cheer wine, cookout, but the cookout's spread out and is a chain, not a food.
Okay, Backstage Pass is helping us out. Wisconsin cheese, of course. Philly cheese steak. All right, that's Pennsylvania. Good. Yep, you got that. Maine is lobster. I feel like all those freak states up there, they all claim the lobster, don't they? Or is Maine like lobster number one?
I would say if you said lobster and told me to name a state, I would say Maine.
Yeah. Okay.
And are we counting like New York pizza? Like, is it
obviously?
Okay, sure. They can have that. I would give it to California Pizza Kitchen, but I guess they can take it. Like Nashville hot chicken, right? So Tennessee, that's claimed. Ooh.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kentucky has fried chicken. That's right. All right. Let us know what states we're missing for signature food in the comments on YouTube, everybody. Aging Poorly says, hey, Ben and the Charles loving cohorts. It's complicated, Charles. We can't explain it to you. I've been raiding eBay for some cult classics, and I'm playing through Elite Beat Agents on the DS. This game is pure joy. My cheeks hurt from smiling while tapping along to weird dancing secret agents, a goofy animated short story, and Avril Lavigne's Skater Boy. Are there any other pure joy games like this that I may have missed? This is making me angry just thinking about when Sarah Pazorski was so dismissive of
He
this game.
hated the idea of it so much.
It's a good game. It says, okay, so they say, yeah, examples of pure joy games like this I may have missed. I don't mean games that might make you smile every once in a while. I mean games where you can't help but grin like an idiot while playing all the time.
You didn't even include what game they were referring to in the question,
Yeah.
but my immediate thought was just rhythm games.
Yep.
Like my version of this is Beat Saber, and then like if you have a whole crew, Rock Band is another one that I would describe as like pure joy.
Yep. Yeah, I was thinking Tetris Effect, but mainly again for the music. It's just something, it needs to be like a music focused thing to be constant joy. But I don't know, it's more like a zen, I guess, than a joy with Tetris Effect. It's a
maybe
piece.
Katamari? Is Katamari pure joy? But it still can be like, I'm frustrated, I need to make it bigger.
I do think WarioWare fits this category.
Oh
yeah.
Just something that'll make me smile for hours on end. Like, that's it. Especially going through a new one, like you get to encounter new mini games and micro games, and they're dumber than the last, and it's just perfect.
My answer is Gang Beasts.
Ooh, great one.
I don't know if you've ever played Gang Beasts, but it's physics, goofy fighter, and it's just stupid. It's really stupid. It's also like, full disclosure, probably like in my top 10 most played games of all time.
Whoa.
Because whenever my brother's home, we just play a lot of Gang Beasts, and it's just like we talk and have all of our characters we made in this game. And it's very stupid, but it's consistently funny. It's like just imagining a fighting game where every time you die, it's hilarious. And that's just the spirit of it.
Yeah, it's like either have that or you have fatalities in Mortal Kombat. Yeah. Aren't those funny too? It's like, I don't know. Not really. Have you played Party Animals yet, Charles?
No, but I want to.
Yeah, it seems very up your alley.
Yeah, it does.
I feel bad I haven't checked it out yet, but it seems like a great Extra Life one that we can jump into if we don't get to it before then. Justin Lotman writes in, they say, hey, with Achievement Hunter officially ending after 15 years, do y'all have anything you want to wax nostalgic about for the early days of content creation on the internet? Anything you can pin down that influenced you or brought you joy? Boy, these patrons and their joy. Yeesh.
Yes.
What do you got?
I love this question. I think all the time about the lost art of montages. Like Call of Duty montages specifically were the ones I watched, which was just, like ridiculous dubstep, really over the top, but in many ways very impressive editing, and just being like, here's the time I sniped, 3 people with one shot. Here's when I got, like a shotgun kill streak that was, like 20 people in 2 minutes. Like, it was just like, I really appreciated how much effort and how much musical sync up that they would do.
Yeah.
And I don't know where those people have moved to. I don't know what has kind of replaced that, other than because now it's just streaming, but streaming is not like a greatest hits collection.
Yeah, I hope they're all employed somewhere, living together on an island off the coast of South America. That's kind of the dream. I mean, did you ever dabble in that, Jacob?
No, because it was I wanted to, but I was, one, just not good enough at the games, and 2, it was capturing footage used to be really hard.
Yep.
I didn't have like a capture card for an Xbox 360 or whatever, and so I just I would, every time I got a collateral, all 4 times in Call of Duty that I hit 2 people with a sniper shot, I'd think, oh, that could have been in my montage, but no, it never happened.
Yeah, I do kind of have it is a weird thing to think about. It's like, I should have gotten into that whole world of editing montages, or AMVs were a big thing early for the internet for me. All right, I'm going to watch so many Dragon Ball Z AMVs to some Linkin Park song over and over and over again. It's it's weird that I became a video editor after that, and I never made one myself. I never went back and captured a bunch of cool Dragon Ball clips and made some sick AMV, but I think it'd be a fun editing challenge to try and do it once. I think it's on the list, Leo. I think it's somewhere in the bottom of the barrel idea is trying to make some AMV with anime clips.
Nice. I'm nostalgic for how attainable it seemed to make something that was popular back then.
Yeah.
Like everybody does have phones with good quality cameras now, but it's still like a lot of the stuff we see is in studios, multicam setups or whatever, high budget, high bar setting. But I really was thinking very recently about like stick fight animations. 2 stick figures fighting. There was nothing better than that on the internet. And that was something where you go, well, I barely even know what animation is, but I could do that.
If there was, I'm not talking to like big budget, but like that level of animation, but everybody agreed that it ruled, do you think it would do well in theaters? Do you think there's enough like nostalgia for Stickman fights that you could just do a 2-hour film?
That was just them fighting?
Like people
I would
want,
watch that.
Yeah, people want like events at the theater these days, you know? It's like you can watch Tom Cruise almost kill himself in Mission Impossible, or like, hey, wouldn't it be wild just to watch Stickmen fight for 2 hours?
Yeah, people cheering. I think it could make its budget back.
Okay. All right. Leo,
there is an epic
it.
Stickmen fighting 45-minate compilation that does have 7 million views on YouTube.
oh my God.
And it's a buy or rent thing. It's a movie for sale.
No.
I've honestly had a hard time coming with specific answers. I think the attainability. I remember watching like this isn't like games related, but like old Nigahiga videos, and my friends and I are like, "Oh, we should do that. We could do that." And then we couldn't. We weren't nearly as funny.
I mean, in terms of attainability, though, I mean, don't you think TikTok has really opened those doors back up, Leo? I mean, you're a Vine king yourself.
That's true for certain types of things, for sure. But I feel like there was a time when YouTube was like only people dinking off making stuff with their webcams.
Yeah, yeah.
I say this with absolutely no disrespect to current video game guides writers, because writing guides is very important and it sucks. You know, all respect to you. A GameFAQs text walkthrough is better than any video game guide that exists.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I do not want to watch a video. I don't even want to look at pictures. I don't want things to be on multiple pages that I have to like scroll through. I just want a barely formatted text document that tells me how to play the game. Playing like PS2 games and being able to go back and read GameFAQs, because there really aren't the same kind of level for new games. It's just like, this is so much better than reading a guide on a modern website, which are all broken by like ad implementation and stuff.
Yeah, and you need big ASCII art of like the logo for the game at the top of the guide. That's crucial in there. Yeah, you're right. And like, it's just the most depressing thing when you're looking at like some walkthrough site, some article, how to get through this door in Starfield. And it's just, the text is like repeating itself in a weird way. It's like, this is either written by an AI or just a person who just has to hit some word count to make it go through Google or some nonsense.
Anytime you search for an answer to anything now, it's like, what is this? Second paragraph. Here's why this is this.
Yeah. Oh, it's disgusting. Bring back GameFAQs. The nice thing is they're all still there, you know? And I don't think there's a bunch of gross ads, I don't think, dominating GameFAQs at this point.
No, and it's why I think that site has 2 years left. Like, it just feels like a thing that's going to disappear, and then we'll all be worse off.
Yeah. GameFAQs the book. That's the secret. This is my new crusade. Stickman the movie and GameFAQs the book. The coffee table book where it's just a bunch of those old guides. Nerds would buy it.
Rule.
Stark.com. Stark writes in, they say, hey, Cocoon might be my game of the year. You have to play it. We did, Stark. We'll play more of it. This has me thinking about Playdead, of course. While Alan Wake 2 is about to launch, we haven't heard anything about the other 2 publishing deals that Epic announced, which were for Playdead's next game and Gen Design, which is the creator of Shadow of the Colossus, his next game. Should we be concerned about the silence from Epic on these 2 games? Interesting.
Yeah.
Jacob's nodding yes.
It hurts because, I don't know, Inside and The Last Guardian are maybe 2 of my favorite games ever. The Epic news this week, specifically the head of publishing who left and wrote maybe the most like cold thing I've ever seen in a goodbye letter. Did you see this?
No.
I can't remember his name, but he was. There have been a number of high-profile departures from Epic in recent weeks. But this dude wrote, like, essentially, Epic is moving from a developer and publisher into something else, and it requires a different kind of people. Was like in his thing, and I was like, holy crap.
Whoa.
Like, that is, for a politely worded departure letter, that is like one of the most brutal things that you could write. So yeah, I'm very worried about what Epic is doing, because it doesn't seem good. Doesn't seem good.
So they just laid off 900 people at Epic, and kind of divested themselves of Bandcamp and a marketing agency within there. And so they're taking a hit, but the charitable read might be like, well, Alan Wake 2, they're going to be pushing that, and they don't want to step on Alan Wake's toes by talking about the next game from Ueda or Playdead. And so maybe they want to just roll out one of these at a time. Maybe? Leo says no?
There are also two studios that take their time making big, bold pieces of art, too. So any delay, I attribute to that just getting harder and harder to do in this landscape. But I think Jacob's right that there's stuff surrounding it that makes it more worrying.
So what's your prediction, Jacob? Where's it going?
I don't know. I think that the thing that they've been working on for like a long time, Epic will just stop funding, and maybe they'll pivot, and maybe they'll be able to bring that work elsewhere. But like, what I'm sensing is that Epic is going to have less bottomless pockets for projects that just take a really long time.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like really what they're trying to do. And so I'm like, these developers are so specific, and they just don't really feel metaverse fueled. You know, it's like Inside and The Last Guardian are not like, oh, we can fit this into our metaverse so easily.
But then again, it's not like they're publishing a boatload of games. You know, it just feels like they bet on Remedy, they bet on Playdead, they bet on Ueda. Like that's a cool three. And if those are just a bottomless pit of money being poured into to make a game, it's like, that seems like a clean break. Let's just get these out the door and then change direction for the future. Like, I'd be surprised if Epic was like, you know what, Ueda, yoink, and taking all the money back and kicking them out the door.
We've been surprised before.
They just laid off 900 people. Like, you know, I do think that's just something that happens now.
Yeah. Hey, Lily S writes in with a more optimistic take, screaming, why isn't anybody talking about Disgaea 7? It just released, and it's one of Nippon Ichi Software's longest running franchises. This company releases so many hidden gems, it gets overlooked a lot as far as RPG developers go. Do people not like these games, or is it something else? I think
I reviewed one when I wrote for a blog for free called PlayStation Euphoria. I reviewed a random Disgaea game.
Yeah,
and I wasn't crazy about it, so that's my reason.
Okay, Leo has a reason.
I don't know what the you three have, but I have a pretty good reason.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been contacted by anybody from the publisher angle here about any sort of access to the Disgaea series or anything. So it's too easy to be like, oh, blame the publisher. But also, Disgaea is a weird word, number one. Number two, it's combined with the word 7, which is a very high number, which those are two barriers that are tough to get through to find a new audience. To be fair, looked it up, and it does seem like people who are playing Disgaea 7 are enjoying it. So we're the fools. There's no doubt about it. But maybe that's your reason for why it's not breaking through. Although, I'm about to eat my words, because it does have a subtitle, apparently. It does make it more appealing. Disgaea 7, Vows of the Virtueless.
That's right.
So
I wrote a preview of this for Game Informer, and I hadn't played any games in the series. This one adds like jumbification, I think is the word, which I had to write and spell a bunch of times. Where you just get so big you kind of stand off the edge of the map.
What?
I don't know. It as a series, it's always struck me as something that was like not meant to please a wide audience. It was more of like, if this is your type of game, you're going to be so into this, and like the damage numbers and they go up into the like millions or something like that.
What?
Like it's meant to have that like kind of anime style excess of like over the top numbers and expression and stuff. And
All right.
it seemed, I don't know, it feels like a cop-out answer to be like, the people that like this like it, and that's who it's for. But it does very much feel like it's got a target audience and it's hitting that, and we just don't happen to fall in that at the moment.
Yeah, they made 7 of them. You know, you can't do that if there's no audience.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think what people need who aren't into it, like us, would be like a specific pitch on like why it's cool and why this is the one to jump in on. You know, I feel like sometimes it's easy to just be sad that we're not playing it, but I think we need a bid. You know,
Help us, Lily. Help us, Lily.
Yeah, I mean, y'all ever play any of those yeast games or yeast? You know how they're pronounced?
It's pronounced yeast. No, I've never played an yeast game either, and I do feel bad about that.
There's a 10th one of those coming out this year.
I know.
And I've heard I've seen one person tweeting like, "Hey, this is good," but like, it's the 10th one of a series that I know nothing about.
They're tough to break into. Lee Huber writes in and says, "Hey, MinnMax, Square Enix has finally settled the debate and made a post this week on Twitter saying that the character from Final Fantasy VII, Kate Sith, is pronounced Kate Sith and not the Scottish Gaelic pronunciation Ket She. I'm a bit disappointed with this because I think if you're pulling a character's concept/name from another culture/language, you should try to preserve the original pronunciation, even if it's a bit difficult for English speakers. What do y'all think about this? And are there any other names from games that were pronounced wildly different from what you expected? East probably is up there. Yeah, this is a big deal. We talked about on the podcast of like, oh, the cat from Final Fantasy VII. Of course, I grew up calling him Kate Sith, and then learned later on, no, it's actually Ket She. I was like, well, okay, I don't speak.
Objectively cooler sounding.
It is cooler, but confusing when it's spelled like the words Kate Sith. But I was ready to, you know what? I changed from Aerith to Aerith. I'm happy changing from Kate Sith to Ket She, but it is interesting because like I don't think we've heard him talk. I don't think in remake yet.
No, I think you have, because I saw people mad about this, and they were like, they gave him a Scottish accent, but they're still making it Kate Sith. That's odd. Where do you land on this, Jacob? I mean, I have no attachment to this character, but it I don't know. It seems dumb, and I think the Japanese pronunciation is still closer to Ketchi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it just seems, you know, I kind of agree with the like if you're taking something from a culture, then like don't bastardize the pronunciation of the thing that you're taking it from. Like, just, I don't know, just change the spelling of the name to, like, it's not like Ketchi is hard to pronounce. It's just not what we think when we see those letters.
It's like I pronounce it Mexico, but if somebody says Mexico, I'm not going to say actually it's Mexico.
Yeah, and in terms of like other
metaphor,
other games where something was pronounced wildly different, it's weird in the Final Fantasy world. Like, I was floored when I learned that it's Titus and not Titus. I was like, what do you mean it's Titus? That sounds horrible. But all right, we got to get used to it. And then Jacob, it's actually Devil May Cry. It turns out you were right the whole time. Right. Yeah.
I hate to keep playing this card, but when I was 8 years old and playing Lego Batman for the first time, this isn't a character name as much as it is like I didn't know all words, and the word projectile I read as projectile.
Oh,
and
okay.
I would always say projectile. Use your projectiles to hit the target. Everyone's got these projectiles, and it was a thing for like years and years and years. Never came up. I would hear the word like projectile vomit, and I was like, oh, maybe in the adjective form you say it like that. And then later found out I was like, nope, that was wrong actually.
Damn you, Batman.
I did have my friend who was the friend who like owned the game when I was a kid, called Super Smash Bros. Melee Medley, which
weird,
like almost makes sense. You know, it's like, oh, it's a medley of characters, but he would just be like, yeah, we're gonna play medley.
That was a lot of our introductions to the word melee as kids, for sure.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, that means you had a good childhood.
I used to pronounce Shadow Gambit the Cursed Crew Codex something.
Classic faux pas, but then in the opening cutscene, they set you straight.
Right.
Graham Jones writes in, they say, what would happen to MinnMax if Taylor Swift came on the MinnMax Show podcast? It's a great question,
Yeah.
Greg.
So do you like Final Fantasy, Taylor?
I bet she's played. What do you think is the most recent game that she's given a good dabble to? A good old-fashioned dabble.
Warzone.
Yeah, probably.
Do you want to play as Nicki Minaj?
Do you think that Taylor Swift, I mean, she owned a DS. I'm confident saying she owned a DS. I think I'd make the line, I bet she never bought a 3DS. That'll be my Taylor Swift prediction. So
DSi, maybe?
Maybe. Playing Elite Beat Agents, probably. It's good where she got a lot of her musical inspiration.
Has she dated anyone who has like gamer vibes?
How dare
who
she's
that guy
more
that she
than who
dated
she
previous that everyone hated?
Oh, yeah.
Was he a gamer?
Probably.
That's probably why they hated
Ninja?
it.
Yep, Ninja.
Yeah, she dated Ninja.
Yeah, if she came on this podcast, I bet Pinecast, the place where we host all of our podcasts, I'm guessing their headquarters would start on fire from all the downloads. But then at the same time, I think it would be a net negative for us.
Oh yeah, it would be bad.
I think like somehow we would all get attacked 8 ways to Sunday, and the Swifties would probably find our houses and just vanish us. I think.
Adrian says that's a horse girl if I've ever seen one. She did have country roots. It made me think, wouldn't be the most recent, but The Last of Us 2, I feel like you've got horses and guitar playing. Might put it on her radar.
I thought you were gonna say Red Dead. Also,
Sure.
that's like the horse girl game.
Yeah, ultimate horse girl fantasy, being Arthur Morgan coughing up blood. Okay, yeah, come on the podcast though, Taylor. Open door. Even though I think it would destroy our lives, you gotta go out somehow. It seems fun. Boba Fett's writes in from Inside Event. That was a little addition I did. They say, if real life had a new game plus option, would you take it? And what would you do differently your second time around?
Can I ask some clarifying questions here?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, well, I'm going to.
Okay.
So what defines New Game Plus in this? Like you're retaining knowledge or you're retaining abilities? Like, am I starting over as a baby and I can speak full English and I know how to play the trombone and stuff?
Yeah. I think you'd lose all your possessions, worldly possessions.
Also, are you starting over in the year that you were born, or is it like when you die, you're then like a smart baby in 2050?
I think it's the year you're born and your whole life, gets undone.
Yeah.
Which I think is the only way this question becomes difficult.
Right.
So would you do it all different? Which I would.
And you would take that New Game Plus option for life, Leo?
Yes, I would. I'd remember the day I got on OkCupid to meet my partner. I'd memorize that. But the rest, I'd be like a savant kid. I would be making videos at age 8 that captured the zeitgeist.
Just
AMVs. I kind of think this is a more interesting question. I think about the version of this where it's like, I don't know the future, where it's just like, what if I was just a baby that was as smart as me at 28? Which is like not a genius, but like way smarter than most babies. It's like, how long could I make like a career out of doing that? Because eventually I would age out of it being impressive, but I could still be like that guy who was the really smart baby.
Yeah, that is tough. If it's like, oh, you're the best at like Teen Jeopardy, like way to go, kid. But eventually you're going to be in your 20s and then we're all going to make fun of you for just being as smart as the rest of us are, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can get very far for I used to be a smart baby. That's like child star level.
If you could like start a church, when you were like 3, and then just like maintain, essentially make like a cult around you.
Right. That's
Why was that?
No, this is good. He's onto something. It's the
What
next
is
step.
the goal of the cult having? You're like,
so I can have a career when I'm 28, out of being a smart baby.
I just like the short answer to this prompt is like, if I could start my life all over again, I would form a cult as a toddler.
Do you think, Jacob, with your YouTube following, do you think genuinely if you just upload a video that was like 10 minutes, but it was just you talking to camera and it was 100% sincere, be like, we're starting a cult and I want you to join me. Meet me on this commune in North Carolina. How many people would show up?
100%.
4?
4 people.
Okay, but you guys would have a really good time. It would just...
They would be the coolest people.
They would be the coolest. Yeah, it'd be nothing but 4-ways and 4-way chilies just all day, every day. It'd be the
When
sweetest.
you say surprise, I'm just looking for cool friends to hang out with.
You passed the test. It's like a Willy Wonka situation. Let's see. Travis in Fargo writes in, says, hey, what's your pillow situation? Great question.
I got a nice silk pillowcase for my birthday. I would wake up every morning, the pillowcase would be on the floor, and the pillow would be skinned because I am such a tosser and turner. And my girlfriend really thoughtfully got me a silk pillowcase that zips up at the end, and now it doesn't happen anymore.
Oh my God, that's smart. And the pillow itself, happy with it?
Happy with it. I think there's a better pillow out there for me that I need to take the time to really look for.
I'm with you. I've just gone through every pillow in this house and I'm not satisfied, but I feel like at some point I need to extend beyond because it's either too flat and lumpy like mine is or just too big and then my neck hurts. And like, I got those sheets nailed. I forget the name of them. The ones that we keep talking about on this podcast. Like, sheets are great.
Fresh.
That's right. My pillowcase is just a big box of HelloFresh food. But yeah, the pillow itself, I haven't nailed yet. I feel like it's an area of my life that definitely needs improving.
Is this a single pillow deal? You guys sleep with one pillow?
Oh.
Yeah. I have a second handy for reading or whatever, but
For
one
reading?
pillow plug. Prop my head up when I'm reading before bed.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I guess I have a pillow like it's like having a Derringer in your boot. I have a pillow down by the side of the bed that I can pick up and put up if I'm sitting up and watching a movie in bed or something,
I do one pillow head, other pillow holding. Like a mandatory. I gotta have both pillows.
And one of them does need the anime girl printed on it?
I mean, it can be an anime guy.
Hey, I'm not here to judge.
I'm not picky.
Okay.
Right.
But some sort of face with a Sharpie.
It's a thing of like when you're laying on your side, like my arm, I'm just not used to it falling all the way down. So if it stays up, it's like the circulation still goes.
No, I agree. I'm a side sleeper and I need like something there to not, because it's just, if it's just kind of hanging down, it feels weird.
And the love of your partners isn't enough?
They're too warm.
Classic problem.
Here's the real thing that needs to be invented is like, I saw, I don't know, years ago on some like, hey, look at this ingenious design, but it was like a bed that had little cuts in it so you could like put your arm down. What do you do with your other arm when you're spooning? It's just, there's no solution to it.
Yeah,
it's like if you put it up by your head, then it kind of feels weird, and if you try to squish it up, so it's just like, someone needs to figure that one out.
Yeah. Michael Berry has figured it out. And then they said, Eureka, I'm going to go write this question on Patreon. They say, as a kid, I had a blast jumping into things. By the way, did you all see Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny?
Yeah.
Did you like it when that character said Eureka? Or was that dumb?
I don't remember it, but that means it didn't bother me.
Okay, cool. Anyways, Michael Berry says, as a kid, I had a blast jumping into things like piles of leaves or ball pits at indoor playgrounds. Now, both of those things seem really gross. Which one do you actually think is grosser? The decaying leaves or the unsanitized plastic balls? Which pile would you jump in now?
Great question.
Great question.
Gotta be the balls.
Gotta be the balls?
But the balls are grosser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, grosser. Okay, so you would jump into the leaves.
Yes.
I would too.
Leaves are nature.
I don't know. I think the balls are probably more germy, but for me, it's like the idea of having like crushed up leaves just like stick to my skin and like, kind of get in my clothes and all of that. It's just like, if the balls, when I got out, I wouldn't have like pieces of them stuck to me. And I'm just like,
but you wouldn't be able to see them.
Yeah,
well,
small
that's
microplastics.
okay. I just don't want to see them.
Yeah, it would get in your bloodstream. I think I go leaves too. I mean, I definitely remember as a kid, like especially when they're nice and soggy, and it's like they're still good. Then it's just like there's like worms in there. I definitely remember finding worms.
Yeah, wait, what?
In the leaf pile because it's been sitting out there for too long and stuff.
Okay, but so not nice, bad.
Bad and soggy, I guess is a better way to put it.
Wet and wormy.
just wormy and nice, like a good comforting pile. But I think it's more fun. I think leaves are a way to go. Yeah.
Definitely more fun. I have such a specific memory of being a kid raking because my parents asked me to, and seeing the pile I just made and being really contemplating like it might be worth it to jump into it and have to rake it again.
Yeah. And it was.
I think if the balls were like sanitized beforehand, I would always prefer jumping in the balls. Because I do agree of like, I'm not interested in having the leaves like sticking to me. Like I think sensation wise, I would not like to feel the leaves. I just feel like I could get out of that and then go on with my week and not get sick. And if I jump in the balls, I'm going to get like strep throat.
I feel like
there's
it's
places with foam pits now.
Yeah.
You jump into a bunch of foam.
I really want to do that. Maybe we even talked about having a MinnMax community meet up there at some point, and then somebody said, "Are you insane? Somebody will break their neck." We can't do that, but I do think it'd be fun. Yeah, I don't like the plastic balls thing because one time I remember I was playing in a plastic ball pit and I was like under the surface of the balls, like doing a backstroke, probably something really cool, and somebody jumped off of something at like this McDonald's. And they jumped into the ball pit and they landed directly on my stomach. It was like the first time I had the wind knocked out of me. Just like popped up out of the ball pit, like like it was the worst. And so that's the main reason I haven't been in a ball pit since.
I'm so glad getting the wind knocked out of me hasn't been a present threat in my life for like 10 years. I feel like that happened so often when I was a kid for some reason. It felt like I was going to die.
It's bad. It's really bad. Unlike these questions, which are all good. Charles, which is the best one? Pop quiz.
I mean, I like being asked about Cincinnati style chili, to be honest.
Okay.
I appreciate this person did research on the guests, and they're like, we know who's coming. We're gonna give them a specific question.
Okay. All right. You're the guest of honor, unless Leo and Jacob strongly disagree.
Great choice.
Yeah.
Correct choice.
I learned a lot.
Hey, we did learn a lot.
4 ways, 5 ways.
That's right.
3 ways. 3 ways are the normal ones, to be clear.
But there's only one way to submit a question. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. That is Joseph Stanichar, former Game Informer intern. Congratulations. You won the Mario vinyl from I'm 8-Bit. Nice. Now it's time for something that we call Get a Load of This. There's music playing, Charles.
I'm dancing.
I swear I'm dancing. Hey, get a load of this. Tim Kaine, who's the co-creator of Fallout, and he's at Obsidian for a long time. Last project that he led was Outer Worlds. He's now like a contractor for Outer Worlds 2, which is interesting. But he started a YouTube channel, and it's again my favorite thing of just very seasoned game industry people being like, you know what? I'm just gonna go on YouTube and share everything I can and all of my knowledge. And so it's a interesting YouTube channel. He has a lot of insight. It's always like there's always a hint in every video of him just being like, I just got tired of younger developers and working with people. And like, there's always slightly angry old man energy in him, but I appreciate it. But he's posted one recently, which is cool, which is, since he was the co-creator of Fallout, he went to the launch party for Bethesda's Fallout 3. And apparently he like kept a diary of what happened that night and his thoughts. And he just like reads that journal entry in this YouTube video that you can check out. But he talks about like, his thoughts on the thing, but also just like the celebrities that were there and seeing David Spade try to hit on women at the Fallout 3 party, just a bunch of silly, weird stuff like that, but also walking through his thoughts on it emotionally and all that stuff. So it's a cool YouTube channel. Check it out. Tim Kaine's over there. Leo, you got one?
Yeah. Get a load of this. I know this isn't really the space for plugs, but I'm really proud of this, and it's kind of all I have. So there's an article written about me. It's on Ars Technica, and it's called Harbingers of Failure. Meet the customers you don't want to love your product. It's basically about how there are certain customers that can be reliably followed who are into niche products where something they buy is more likely to be something that fails.
Oh, interesting.
Whoa.
Wow. And they cite you throughout the entire piece, or is it kind of the focus?
They didn't have to.
Okay. Nice. Cool. But yeah, that's skateboarding. Riders Republic is pretty sweet. There's no doubt about it. Links below for all this stuff. Charles, do you have one?
Get a load of this.
Wow.
The word goodbye is actually a portmanteau of God be with you.
Shut up.
Super old thing over time turned into goodbye. Yep. So.
Whoa. So they're just saying it faster and faster?
I guess, yeah.
I love that. Good stuff. Jacob, you got one?
Yeah, get a load of this. Recently, we finally got a feature on the whole GameStop stock saga, featuring one of my favorite guys that really explains the whole thing and makes it easy to understandable, and it's entertaining to watch. And it's not the movie that just came out. Instead, it's the YouTube video "This is Financial Advice" by Dan Olson, aka Folding Ideas. This is Ben, the guy who did that cryptocurrency video, like the NFTs video that essentially killed NFTs. At least that's what I choose to believe. It's a 2.5-hour video on essentially the apes, if you will, that are still kind of holding GameStop stock and their spiral into conspiracies. It is like, it is a weird watch. This is one of those things where it's just like, you kind of know that there's like something going on there, but he has spent like years looking at like what exactly they are doing and what they believe and how the narrative has like shifted. And it is really, really good.
Oh God, I gotta watch that for sure. That's wild. Hey, from the community Discord, to get a load of this channel, which is just filled with interesting things all the time, Voy Wonder shared a clip, and they say Street Fighter 6 is currently having an event with Chipotle. This is just good gaming stuff. Had an event with Chipotle Street Fighter 6. They've given out a backpack that looks like a burrito, very naturally in the game. The thing about the character creator in Street Fighter 6, though, is that it allows you to resize and move all the items. So now we have giant burritos fighting each other all the time in Street Fighter 6. Because the clip is just awesome, because it's just giant burritos doing awesome Street Fighter 6 moves. But it's a win-win for everybody. It makes the game sillier and makes us all hungry for Chipotle. But hey, that is it. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening to this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. We have some things coming up. We have the next episode of Trivia Tower. Our trivia show is happening Tuesday, October 17th at 7 p.m. Central. So if you jump in at any tier on Patreon, even the $2 tier, you can compete in game trivia to win prizes. And here's the thing. It is never going to be easier for you to win a game code than on this next episode of Trivia Tower. The easiest round ever, because all you have to do is get one question right and you win a game code. Because this is a very special episode, because we kind of have the pool of everybody competing to get a game code, even just one question right. But the crux of the episode is it is Trivia Tower Tournament of Champions. We are bringing back everybody who's ever won Trivia Tower, including from Trivia Tower All-Stars, and they're all going to compete against each other to determine the greatest of all time. So that's going to be kind of the second half of the show. But the first half, you can still jump in and compete in to win a game code. So Trivia Tower Tournament of Champions, October 17th, jump in at the $2 tier on Patreon to compete. Also, reminder, we have the community meetup happening October 22nd, Sunday, October 22nd, to celebrate MinnMax's 4th anniversary. We're going to be in Seattle. We're going to be at Petoskey's, the Minneapolis-themed bar/restaurant in Seattle. So if you're in the Seattle area, please come by and say hi. It's going to be Kelsey Lewin and I and some friends hanging out at Petoskey's. So come say hello. Sunday, October 22nd. We want to see you, Seattle people. Please don't let us sit there by ourselves like dweebs. Party Chat, our bonus podcast, goes up every single Monday in the bonus podcast feed if you're a $5 supporter. This week we break down the Extra Life plans, which there's going to be a twist this year on Extra Life, but it is going to be a big charity stream that's happening Saturday, November 4th. All-day charity stream. We have a ton of great charity auctions, prizes to give away, rotating guests coming through the MinnMax studio. So fun details in there that are relayed in that episode of Party Chat. We also, of course, talk about Survivor because I love that show. We talk about starting Baldur's Gate 3. We talk about Castlevania Nocturne. So unlock Party Chat each and every week. Then the other big thing to plug here is we just launched a second YouTube channel for MinnMax. We were running into a bit of a problem of making too much content. Now, the problem is we, for so long, have been doing streams, like Jeffem will be doing a solo stream, Sarah will be doing a solo stream, Haley McLean will be doing a solo stream on our Twitch channel, and now we're going to be doing more and more of those and we don't want to flood your subscription feed for MinnMax's main YouTube channel. And so all of those solo streams are now going to go to the secondary YouTube channel called MinnMax Stream Archives. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. So they will all be public. Before, they've been unlisted, and we tried to share them, but YouTube changed some things with the unlisted videos to make them harder to find. So we finally ripped off the Band-Aid. And those will all be on that bonus channel, MinnMax Stream Archives. Also, people are very helpful, and I made a post about this on Patreon, and people were like, what about all the old unlisted streams? And I said, that's a good point. So I downloaded all the old unlisted streams, and I'm going to be uploading all of those onto this secondary channel as well. Just for my own sick pleasure, though, I timed it out. It is 309 hours of content. I'm sorry, 399 hours of content from these solo streams that we'll be uploading on this new YouTube channel, but there's already some up there right now. But it's very fun to go back and be like, Jesus, Sarah played through like all of Resident Evil Village. Sarah played through all these games. Surreal did a ton of streaming. There's a ton of good old stuff that'll be up on that channel you can check out. So nice. Link below. Surely, Charles, you have something to plug.
I'll plug my gratitude for having me on the show.
Nope.
Also, I write at Game Informer, and you can go go check out GameInformer.com. We sell issues of the magazine in stores now.
What would make you happiest, Charles, for people to comment on?
To comment on?
Yeah, or send you feedback on. What would tickle your heart the most from the Game Informer stuff?
Oh man, if you have access to the digital magazine, I just did a retrospective on Xbox 360 in honor of Game Informer's 360th issue.
Oh, of course.
Nice.
So if you read that and you like it, don't tell me if you don't like it, because I don't care. You can tweet at me or X at me at ChuckDuck365.
Sweet. There we go. Yeah, Game Informer's new cover is Mario Wonder. Congrats on a big get. That's sweet. But hey, Charles, great job. Thanks for being here. He saluted for people listening. Also to thank you everybody at the Game Champion tier on Patreon, the $50 tier. You can choose any game under the sun to be declared the champion. So of course we're talking about RabidLime is the champion of an airport for aliens, currently run by dogs, of course. Vincent Baker is the champion of Final Fantasy Tactics. Great pick. That's going to stand out. Procyon number 6 is the champion of Ghost of Tsushima. And Malcolm Holliday, very interesting, chose Mortal Kombat 1 to be officially the champion of. So we'll pit all those together soon for the Game Championship poll. Hey, that's it. Thanks so much again, everybody, for watching or listening to this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast. Be good. Have fun. Jacob Geller, what's the name of that game?
Let's go. Kodak something.
Can I?
Yeah.
Shadow Gambit Skeleton Crew?
Go!
Shadows die twice?
What's the last two words?
The Cursed Crew.
I did have to re-Google it to remind myself a bunch of times.
I did too, and we love the game. But seriously, check it out, everybody. Okay, Shadow Gambit, The Cursed Crew, everybody. Bye!